in this Planet Zoo tutorial video, it is all about water. I'm going to be giving you all the tips and tricks that you are going to need to build magnificent waterfalls, streams and rivers, water features, and everything else to do with water. So let's get into this. This video is going to be separated into different sections using timestamps. So for instance, if you want to learn about waterfalls but you don't want to learn about rivers and streams, you can do. Just fast forward the video to the point you want and there you go, you're off. You can learn about what you want to learn about. But if you want to learn everything about water, then I suggest listening in from the start to the finish. First up is waterfalls. And I thought no better place to bring you than a zoo I created called Nootropic Zoo. As you can see, we've got a magnificent, giant, well, it's really large actually, waterfall here, just in the corner of the zoo. And you will notice two main things about this waterfall. There is two bits to it. There's the top bit what is set a little bit further back, and then the bottom bit what kind of overhangs and drops onto the floor. And obviously the second part you will notice about this is the amount of foliage and rockwork, and you're really going to have to get used to building with rockwork and foliage if you want to create, well, any kind of water-based elements within your zoo, especially waterfalls. So if you do struggle with foliage and rockwork, I have got a totally separate tutorial for that on my channel. Just type in Adamup foliage tutorial, I'm sure it will come up. So how do we actually go about starting to build a waterfall and creating a wonderful waterfall? First up, you want to get your construction menu up, and you obviously just want to type in water, or you can narrow it down. If you go into special effects, the bottom left of the menu, the construction menu there, and then water, these are all your water abilities, your water construction pieces. You can see it's quite daunting because you've actually got quite a lot, from special effects waterfall murky bottom to special effects underwater bubbles small. So this is where you want to start typing. Now we're going to just concentrate on a standard waterfall here, how to put the top in, how to put the middle, and how to put the bottom in, and how to make it look realistic and effective, obviously, as well as beautiful. So we're just going to type in fall. We're just going to press enter, and we're going to stick with these ones what we've got here. You can see we've narrowed it down a little bit. Now you can start building your rock work from scratch with the rock pieces in your nature tab, right? Or you can actually build into the sculpted area what you've already got into your zoos, and that's what I'm going to do this time. But you're still going to be using rocks. Very important. You want waterfall, you need to have rocks. It's the easiest way to do it. Right, we're going to use this section here because I quite like it. It's quite dug out. I'm just going to first of all see if I can add a base, and what I mean by base is add a body of water. Now there's no big enough dents to add actual water, so we're going to create one. Let's go in our terrain tool, push it down, and we're just going to push this down, flatten it out, and then we're going to add some water here. Remember, you can recolor water as well. That's not enough water, so let's dig down a little bit more. Dig down, flatten it out, add water the highest. There we go, that's better. We're going to recolor this, so we're going to click on it, we're going to customize, and because we're in a tropical setting, we're going to go with a tropical water. I like to put it on 1.2, just how much vibrant and better does that look? Maybe a little bit unrealistic, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so we've got our base. That is where our waterfall will fall into. Now we need to start building it up. Remember, we've narrowed the construction pieces down to our fall. If you come out of this and back into it, it will still be narrowed down. We're going to go into nature. Now you can use any rocks you want. You can match your rocks with the biome you're in. For this instance, we're in a tropical biome, so we can use tropical rocks. But whatever biome you are in, if you have got the aquatic pack, use these. Use these aquatic rocks because they can be recolored, and I actually quite like the natural color what they are, what they come as, and they're textured as well. And like I just said, you can recolor them, and you just want to start building up the area where you want your waterfall basically. And I want my waterfall here, so I want like the top here and coming down to the bottom here, which hasn't really got good lighting really, so we're going to change the time of the day, just like that. And then we're going to align to grid. Now you can hold the shift button and you can move in and out of the actual terrain to align it to the terrain, just like that, and then left click. And this is very effective, easy way to place rocks. Now there's no shortcuts in this. Well, that's a lie. There's a little bit. You can see I've got a little cluster of rocks here. If I want to just group them together, I'm sure you all know how to do it. Merge it to scenery, duplicate it. I can then start placing rocks like that, and it's more time efficient. But placing rocks is very time consuming, as you will probably all know. So this is going to be the top right there, and you can see it's coming together already. Now there is a couple of things I like to do. What I like to do is kind of like create different textures. We want it to come out a little bit, we want it to come in a little bit. Don't worry about the water right now, just try to get different textures within this rock face. We're going to come down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, and the design options are totally up to you, remember. I'm just going to build it out all the way until our base, till we get to our water. Just line it up, covering the gaps. You can turn them round, have them however you want them. Remember, I've merged these sceneries together, makes it so much easier to place, just like that. We're going to put some in the water as well, at the base of the water. But don't worry about that, the base of the water, too much. And we're just going to go with that from now on. Now we're going to build the top up a little bit, just like this, so it looks like the water's kind of coming over the top. We're going to go back into our construction pieces, and we're going to go into what, remember we narrowed it down, so waterfall top is what we need. So waterfall top, I've got midsection here, waterfall bottom, waterfall, we don't want murky, I don't like murky. Waterfall top 10 meters, there we are. Make sure you have pressed play. If you don't press play, you will not see your water come out of your water feature, so make sure we're on play. And then you just want to randomly place this, but try to make it look like it works. It's very hard to describe what I'm going to do here. You can see the waterfall top is so universal, it's so versatile. You can use it for so many different things. So you can use it inside of the rock, so it looks like kind of like it's hitting the rock of where it's textured and where it's coming out. You can use it at the top, so it looks like it's sprouting out like that, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to place that there, and you kind of just want to place these randomly, but where they're not seen. So again, we're going to hold shift and we're going to dig it down into the actual rock like that, and you're just going to place these in all the nooks and crannies of your waterfall, just like this, just like so. And you can see it's already starting to form and look realistic. There's a nook here, so we're going to put it here. There's a little one here where you can, remember, you can press Z and you can rotate them how you want. Just like that. And we're just going to start placing them all down this rock face, so it kind of looks like it's cascading down. Right, we've created one middle section there going down, and you can just do exactly the same with this as well. Remember, just because it says top, you don't have to use it on the actual top itself. If you see any bits poking out and you missed it, just put it back in, just put it into the rock. And then we're going to move on to midsection, and you're pretty much going to do exactly the same. So we're going to get our midsection, which is over here. Again, we're going to go with 10 meters. And remember, you can recolor these as well. For this instance, I'm not going to recolor them, but if you want to recolor them to a bluey color to match the tropical color of the water at the bottom, you can do. And you're going to do exactly the same with the waterfalls, but you're going to do it more on the ledges. So you can see, like here, if I dig it down, it gives it a natural kind of waterfall effect, and it blends in with the top elements what you've put in as well. put one there, just line it up against the rocks. Well, that's what I like to do. Remember, this is, you don't have to take my word for gospel. This is me giving my own personal tips and tricks on everything to do with water. If you're not getting the correct angles, don't worry, you can change your angles. There we go. I'm quite happy with how that looks so far. I hope you guys are too, and I hope you're picking up some tips and tricks with this as well. Right, bottom now. We've done the top, we've done the midsection, we need to do the bottom. And it's pretty self-explanatory really. We need to just go into waterfall bottom. We're going to go 10 meters as well, because it is quite a big waterfall, isn't it? So waterfall bottom, where are you? Midsection, bottom, murky, midsection. Waterfall bottom, 10 meters. Now this is a little bit more tricky because it's going to align it to the bottom here, but you can align it to the bottom of the pool. Press X and you're just going to move it up just so it's, yep, zoom in, it is fiddly, and then just move it just so it's underneath the layer of water, and then start burying it again into the actual rock face like that. You can move it out a little bit like that, but try to hide it as best you can really. There we go, there is our bottom in, and the fundamentals are there. We've now got a waterfall. The obvious thing to do now is maybe recolour the rocks, but we're going to add a lot of foliage. And again, like I just said a minute ago near the start of the video, I have got a separate foliage tutorial on my channel, but you're basically just going to cover all this area with all foliage to make it look more realistic. And you can see with just adding a little bit of foliage, it's already starting to look a hell of a lot better. And that is the basics of how to build a waterfall. Let's move on to the next section. Next up, we're going to talk about streams and rivers, and I've brought you to this, which is one of my petting zoos, to kind of like demonstrate how to go about doing them. With streams and rivers, I try to make it look as realistic as possible and add elements what nature would actually have. And I try to create little nooks and crannies like this with fallen trees and swings and stuff like that. Once again, you can see there's a hell of a lot of foliage, so foliage is a major part along with rockwork when creating your rivers and streams. But there is some very important tips and tricks I can give you to make them look even better. And from the last section of this tutorial video, you will see how I've implemented the waterfall here, from this body of water to this body of water. It just leads onto it really well. Now, one separate foliage tip I will give you is to add stuff like this, little logs what are like caught on rocks. It really adds to realism. When you are creating kind of like a stream or a river, don't worry too much how it looks at the start. Just create a natural pattern and you can just build around it. That's what I did in this zoo, and towards the back of this zoo I'm going to show you and demonstrate you how I go about doing it exactly. You don't want it too thick, you want it thinner. Don't worry about the rugged edges, you will be covering it, remember, in foliage and rockwork, but try to square it off so the water level is all even as possible, just like this. There we go. That should hold a nice body of water now for me to demonstrate how I go about creating a stream or a river like this. Again, you can recolor it to whatever colour you want. For now, I'm just going to leave it as that colour. Like I just said, don't worry about the edges. You're going to cover this in rocks and foliage, just like I've done over here. You can see it quite separate. This is what it looks like without covering it, and this is what it looks like with covering it. Now, the key to this is to add realism aspects, and the major two construction pieces in the water tab, what we're going to use are form and top. So again, we're going to go into water, and we're going to type in, if you just type in form, F-O-A-M, like this, it will come up. It's actually called Special Effect Water Rapids Form. And this is what's going to give you the river effect, like your water is actually traveling along the surface. And again, we're going to just raise it up just above the water level. Zoom in so you can see. Just like that. And then that's how you create your stream, basically. That's how you create the movement in your water. You can add little bits here and there. there's no perfect way to do it, honestly. There's not. Just try to play about with this foam water piece so you get it looking like your water is traveling down the stream. You can see how I've done it in the nooks and crannies here, and I've combined it with the waterfall top, which looks like it's cascading against the rocks, and I'll just demonstrate that for you as well. We're going to type in top, we're going to type in waterfall effect 5 meters, and you can just see we're going to do it like this. Rock here, for example, is sticking out, isn't it? So if we just again lower it or heighten it just above the water like this, and then kind of dig it into the rock as well like this, turn it just like that, you can see how it looks like the water is cascading and crashing against that rock, and it leads on then to the foam pieces that you've already put in. I like putting a foam piece right after a top piece, especially if you go in with rocks. Just make sure that it's all moving the same way, like so. See how they combine together and look really realistic? Remember, don't worry about how it looks at the start. You will be covering it with rocks and foliage. Make sure you add in waterfall tops so it looks like it's cascading against rocks, and make sure you add in the foam pieces to make sure the water is actually moving. Remember, you can change your water to rough and flat as well. You just click on it and then use natural. No, ignore that. Remember, you can add mist and bubbles as well, which is crazy, but what you want to do is terrain, and then when you go to add water, it says rough water or calm water, and I will suggest making sure you add your water first. Make sure you can get your water in, and honestly, do not take your water back out. Like, make sure you get your terrain right. Don't take your water back out. The amount of times I'll see if I can demonstrate it, actually, see if it works. It might not work. The amount of times I took water out and I can't get it back in because I've put a path too close to the water or a barrier for a habitat is a pain in the ass. Once it's in, try to keep it in. Luckily, I managed to get it back in this instance, but that's not always the case. For ponds and stuff, you really want flat water, not rough water, and you just want to decorate it with reeds and these 4 rocks, again the small ones, so it looks like pebbles. You can also see how I've done it here as well, and I've added some lily pads, a little bit of extra detailing. Next up, we've got water features and little fountains and stuff like that, what you would find in a zoo. And you've got 2 major ways how to build these, and you kind of got to pick either or either. It's using fake water like this, which I'll explain, or actually using body of water, and there's 2 ways how to do that as well. It can get a little bit complicated when creating fountains and stuff like this, but bear with me, let me explain, and hopefully you'll get a grasp of it and you'll become an expert fountain making builder. Right, with this fountain here, I've used what I like to call fake water. I've used the water jets and the water jet bottoms and stuff like that, and the tops like this, to give it the effect that it looks like a water feature. When you zoom in, it's not that realistic, is it? But when you zoom out, it is quite realistic. Now, this is obviously not water. These are the plaster wall floors. Now, you can pretty much use anything that you can recolor. I like to use plaster, or I like to use the art shapes. And you want to recolor them the closest you can get to the color of the water you want. But remember, you can actually recolor your water. So I'm just going to duplicate this to show you. If I just duplicate this and I put it here, for example, you can see what color we've got it. Now, if you go onto your colors, you can pick whatever. If you just highlight this just by left clicking on it, you want to press Control and C on your keyboard, and you just want to paste this into your bottom, well, your makeshift bottom. So in this case, it's a plaster piece. So I'm just going to Control and V and press Enter, and it will recolor that plaster piece to the same color as your water, as so when you do put it in like this, it will kind of like fake people or fake yourself into believing that it's a body of water when it isn't. It's just plaster pieces. If you add a bottom to it just like this, it gives it even more the impression that it is a functional working water feature. Now I've had to draw it from my Steam Workshop page, so this is on there, link in the description. A little bit of a plug there, but yeah, if you want this in your own zoos, you can. Now this demonstrates it once again, the importance of just making it look like it can be water. This is beautiful. I'm really happy how it came out looking, and you can see I've got little water features. Exact same techniques what I've already showed you with the top. We've got the water spout coming out of the hippo's mouth here, but there's actually no terrain water involved. It's all done with construction pieces. But you can do it like this, but bear in mind, you cannot have a path go close to this because it just messes with it. It doesn't let you put the terrain in. You can see I've left gaps here and I've not put the construction pieces in recoloured to the same colour as water to make it look like water, because I actually want water. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to dig down underneath here like this. We're going to flatten it out so we've got a gap in each one. Just like this. And then we're going to add the water. Just like that. Remember, you can recolour your water as well. Just like that. And that's how you would add water, like actual water, using the terrain tool to a water feature. There is one last way of how to get water inside of a water feature, and that's using the in-game glass barriers. But this is a very fiddly way. It's hard enough to make a large exhibit like you're seeing here, with the barriers and enclosing water. So I'm not going to go into it. I will suggest using the other ways I've showed you to include water into water features. But remember, you don't always need a body of water. You can have stuff like this splash pad, where you can see lots of jets and streams and stuff like that to make it look like a little water park for the kiddies in your zoos. And remember, water can obviously still be used inside of habitats. You can use water as like a moat area like this to stop your animals escaping. You can blend the moat idea with a more natural environment like this in this lovely large multi-species habitat. Or you can use the other tips what I've showed in this tutorial video to create lovely little seated water features like this in the pathways of your zoos. I love including all things water in every single zoo I make. It's a massive fundamental part of building and creating in Planet Zoo, and hopefully after this video it has inspired you, it's helped you, and it's a bit of a tutorial for you to be able to get more creative with the water elements within Planet Zoo. If it has helped you, then hit that like button. If you are new to my channel, you might as well subscribe if you want more tutorials. My name's Adam. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next Planet Zoo video.